Let's take a moment. So in my preparation for coming here, I've been preparing a week and a half, I'll be fair. I have to tell you, this evening was the bit I was most looking forward to and most nervous about, because it's just such a huge responsibility to lead so many people in prayer and to sense what they need and when to go and when to slow it down, when to speed it up, when to shut up, when to keep talking, when to let it be quiet. And especially in a place you've never been before, people you don't know yet. It's a very awesome responsibility. And I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to practice. And it is practice.
You're doing great.
I want everyone to be just like flying all the time. What I wanted to speak about tonight is something very, very, very dear to my heart, and I think dear to everybody's heart, since you're all here. It may seem like something simple and not the most esoteric torah you've ever heard, but I think this is just so deep, so fundamental, and that is what we're all here doing today, tonight. It's Shabbos. Shabbos. And how amazingly, amazingly, amazingly important and precious it is to have this gift. You know, what does Judaism have to contribute to the world? What can we teach? What is our most fundamental, most precious practice? I believe it's Shabbat. So I want to ask you all a question. Where is the first place in the Torah? And Reb Bracha, you're not allowed to answer because we had this conversation the other day. Where is the first place in the Torah that Shabbat is mentioned? Speak out, speak out. Bereshit, Genesis. Where in Genesis? Someone give us a little. Where in Genesis? Right. At the end of the 7 days of creation, there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day, and God and the heavens and the earth were completed and all of their hosts, which will say at the end is Kiddush, which I should say all of our music, all of our song is going in here and charging up this cup, this Kiddush cup. All of this is contributing to our ability. This is contributing to our sanctification of Shabbat, our Kiddush Shabbat. All right, so that was the easy question. The slightly harder question is, where is the second time? Where is the first time that Shabbat is given to human beings? Jewish people, no prizes for guessing that part. Where is the first place that Shabbat is given to human beings?
10 Commandments.
Good guess. Yeah, very good guess. Informed choice. But incorrect.
saw that one.
It's before Sinai. It's before the giving of the Ten Commandments. It's before the giving of the Torah as the whole thing. Ah, marvelous! We have an educator's hand. Where they gave manna. Shabbat comes at the same time as manna. It's wild, right? So anyone want to brush on that really quickly? Give us some little interpretation. Why is Shabbat given at the same time as manna?
Because you're not supposed to gather it on Shabbat. You get a double portion on Friday.
Exactly. So we'll read it together in a second. I'm going to read you the story because it's such a good story. I think it bears visiting from the Torah. You're not supposed to gather it on Shabbat. You get a double portion on Friday, so you don't have to go out and gather on Shabbat. Okay, great. That's a literal connection. But it's a bit circular, if you see what I mean. Like, you get Shabbat so that you don't have to gather it, and you don't have to gather it so that you get Shabbat. Can anyone give us an interpretative? Why is Shabbat? Why do you feel that Shabbat and manna are connected? What's the connection?
Because they just come. You don't have to do anything to get them.
Oh, so they're just divine gifts. You don't have to do anything. They just come. They just appear. Wonderful. What else? Because it's sustaining. Amazing. There's this incredible, it's food. It's spirit food. There's nourishment that comes from Shabbat. Amazing. What else?
Women got tired of cooking.
Great. Well, I'm going to come to that in a second. It doesn't say anything explicitly about women cooking. It does say it was the men who had to get up early every morning and go and gather it. It says each man gathered for the people who were in his tent. And interestingly, when I read some wonderful ancient midrashes, rabbinic sort of legend on the Torah. This stuff, Mechilta, I think it's roughly the same period as the Mishnah, the New Testament. Like it's a long time ago, a couple thousand years ago. New Testament, Christian Bible, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. It's from a long time ago. One of the things I particularly like when I came across it drushes on this verse that they had to get up baboker, and they're like early in the morning. From this, you can tell that even in the manner, the curse of Adam, that you will have to work and eat by the sweat of your brow, was fulfilled. Which as I'm a night person myself, I really appreciated the rabbi saying, yeah, having to get up early in the morning, that is the curse of humankind. I agree. Anyway, yes, the manna is nourishing. Manna just appears. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to cook. On Shabbat, you're absolutely right on. That's where we're going with this. I'm going to read you this passage from the Chumash. It's in Beshalach, Parshat Beshalach. After they escape from Egypt, they cross the sea and they sing this whole amazing song. And then they start wandering in the wilderness and they start getting really, really, really hungry. Really hungry. They've run out of food and they haven't found any more food. And they say to Moses, it would have been better for us to die in Egypt, which is the breadbasket of the world. It's full of meat. That's what they say. Than to die out here slowly, miserably from starvation. And Moses is afraid, like, they don't know what's going to happen. It's a place of some tension. God says to Moses, I have heard the complaining, the murmuring of the children of Israel. Say to them, in the evening time you're going to eat meat, and in the morning you'll have your fill of bread, and you will know that I am the Lord your God. This is another cool bit of the story, I didn't say explicitly. Anyone know what shlav are? Oh, sorry, slav. So, apologies. Quail. So before you get the manna, you get this even more like bizarre thing. Up came a flock of quail, and they covered the entire encampment. In the evening, it wasn't the evening that these birds came out of nowhere, covered the whole camp. ובבוקר הייתה שכבת הטל סביב למחנה. And in the morning, there was this laying of dew all around the camp. Maybe the feathers were able to collect the water and keep us very, very thirsty there out in the desert. I don't know, that's my interpretation. The ta'al, shikhvat ta'al, and this dew evaporated. V'hine, al panei hamidbar, dak mechus pas, dak kfor al ha'aretz. So when the dew evaporated, and behold, there was on the face of the wilderness this very fine, kind of like coriander, kind of like frost, flaky stuff. Very fine. Israel, and the children of Israel said to one another, Manu, which means, what is it? But they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, this is the bread which God is giving you to eat, or the food which God is giving you to eat. This is the thing which God has commanded. Each person should go out and gather in an omer, which is a certain measurement, to eat. One omer by count for each member of your tent. Each tent should send a representative, and each said a man, to go gather this substance. And the children of Israel did this, and they took the great and the small. They measured it with an omer, but they found that everyone had exactly the right amount. Right? The one who took a lot didn't have too much, the one who had too little didn't have too little. Everyone took exactly what they needed. Moses said to them, don't leave any leftovers for the morning. But they didn't listen to Moses. And the people did leave over for the morning, and worms came up. And it stank. It rotted. It went really foul. This white, fine, flaky. It didn't look like it would go bad that quickly, but it went really disgusting really quickly. And Moses was cross. Is that an English word? Moses was mad. Moses was angry with them. I can always tell, now my instincts have gone better on that one. There's always like I don't even know what the English words are, but I know when people react that way. And they gathered them morning by morning, every person according to their need, and when the sun rose, it would melt. Okay, here's where we find our thing we're talking about. ויהי ביום השישי, לקטו לחם משנה, שני העומר לאחד. So it was on the sixth day that they took double bread. There were 2 omers per omer. ויבואו כל נשיאי העדה ויגידו למשה, and the chieftains of the people came and told Moses about this. And Moses said to them, Hu asher diber Adonai. This is what God says. Shabbaton, Shabbat Kodesh Ladonai Machar. It is a Shabbaton, it is the holy Sabbath of Yudhei Valkei tomorrow. Okay, listen carefully here. Et asher tofu efu, what you're going to bake. Vet asher tuvashelu, bashelu, and what you're going to boil. V'et kol ha'odef hanichu lachem mishmeret ad haboker. And everything that's left over, lay out for yourselves. Guard it for tomorrow. Keep it. Keep leftovers for tomorrow, for the morning. And they kept it for the morning till the morning. And Moses told them, and it didn't go bad one, and it didn't go nasty. Moses said, now Jews, pay attention, this is very important to all of this. Very, very important, fundamental to all of us. Moses said, eat it today. Eat it. Ki Shabbat Hayom Ladonai. Because today is Shabbos. Today is God's Shabbos. Hayom Lo Timsa'uhu Basadeh. Today you are not going to find it out in the fields. Sheshet Yamim Tilkatuhu. 6 days you should gather it. Vayom HaShvi'i Shabbat. Lo Yelom. As Ruth told us, on 6 days you should gather it. On the 7th day, don't gather it. It won't be there. Needless to say, some people try and go and gather it on Shabbat. They find it's not there. God is a bit annoyed, Moses is a bit annoyed, there's some more talking about it, the upshot is, Moses says, Ru'u, see, for Ki Adonai natan lachem haShabbat. God has given you Shabbat. Therefore, He has given you on the 6th day, He has given you on the 6th day bread. Sorry, double bread. Bread for 2 days. Shuvu ish tachtav, al yetzeh ish mimkomo b'yom hashvi. Everyone should just stay where they are. Don't go out on the 7th day. And from there it continues and it tells us various other things about the manna, including that Aaron put it in a special vessel and it was put in the sanctuary with the pact of the covenant. And there's amazing midrash that when Elijah comes at the end of days, he'll bring a jar of manna and he'll bring a jar of water from Miriam's well and he'll bring the anointing oil to anoint the Mashiach. This manna has this character that lasts through time. But what I want to ask you now is, what do we learn about this? What do we learn from this about Shabbat? What do you get? Now, having heard it about the connection between manna and Shabbat, you can expand on from what we said before. Or even not about manna, but what mitzvot of Shabbat? What do we understand about Shabbat from here? Yeah.
When they held on to the manna the first time overnight, it was out of fear of not having enough. And so when you hoard things out of fear, God spoils them. Right? It's not a healthy way to do it. And, maybe holding on to them so that you may rest, so that you may take that rest with Him.
Did people hear that? Encapsulate? When you hoard things out of fear, then they spoil. And they're not going to last. But when you're storing them up in order to have the sacred time, to have rest, do something good with it, that's a whole different matter. So, yeah.
I was thinking just right now that looking at this connection between the double portion and the idea that we get an extra soul on Shabbat. I don't know if there's something about that, but there's probably more than commentaries.
Beautiful idea. So the double portion on Shabbat goes with that double soul. There's a doubling on Shabbat. Wonderful. What else? And really, you've got to feed that extra soul. I can eat so much more on Shabbat than I can. I really can. I really can. You just keep going. Yeah.
The worms don't have to think to be in the right time.
Oh, nice. Yeah, the worms don't have to think to be in the right time. The way, I think I saw a similar idea expressed by the rabbis, which is to say, how can you tell the manna was kind of magical, because it knew when to fall and when not to fall. This was kind of a mystical substance. It was in tune, so the worm similarly, they were in tune with the sort of cosmic order in this way. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
You have to let go and trust.
Beautiful. You have to let go and trust. That is absolutely it. So one thing I noticed about this when I read it was this funny thing that anyone who's kept Shabbat in sort of a traditional halachic way will really resonate with this. The commandment to prepare for Shabbat actually precede the commandment of Shabbat. The children of Israel are told, bake what you're going to bake and boil what you're going to boil, before they're actually given Shabbat. Right? So I know this is a very, very deep thing, that you can't actually have Shabbat, that you can't rest. There's no good saying, oh, I'm just going to stop now. In order to really be able to stop, in order to really be able to take a day of rest, you have to prepare. You know? You have to think ahead, you have to do it in advance. You have to cook the day before. And, yeah? Oh, another hand. So I think that's very interesting. And to your point, whether it's women or men who are cooking, I think that's very interesting that that's actually the first time we learn about Shabbat, that you can't cook or bake on Shabbat. And then I think the second thing you can read out from that, don't go out and gather, is on Shabbat, leave commerce. Leave commerce aside. You know, this is not the day to be going out into the marketplace to be trying to get. Stop trying to get for one day of the week. And then the third thing, which I think is interesting, is it tells you to stay at home. So don't be out and about on Shabbat. And I know this is difficult in the American geographic landscape because people do live in more spread out communities. But I will say that there is an amazing thing having a community where people are in walking distance of each other. You know, where you can really be in a neighborhood, where you're strolling home. You know, those best conversations happen just on a walk home. And then you say, oh, drop into my place, because you know that no one's doing anything. Then drop in, have a little kiddush, stay for a while, chat, and then carry on your way. There's a beautiful locality, which I just think is an incredible torah for our times. So when I was mentioning this to my chavrita, my study partner, one of my study partners, she said, "Oh my goodness, that's amazing! Did you know that this Shabbos is National Unplugging Day?" No, I didn't know that this Shabbos is National Unplugging Day. But if you go online after Shabbos, obviously, if you look at sabbathmanifesto.org, you will find their 10 principles of keeping Shabbat, which the Sabbath Manifesto, I'm not quite sure I like the glyph, but it looks like Shabbos is the 6th day, not the 7th day on this picture. Anyway, their 10 principles are: avoid technology, number 1; 2, connect with loved ones; 3, nurture your health; 4, get outside; 5, avoid commerce; 6, light candles; 7, drink wine. We'll get to that. 8, eat bread. A little challenging in Boulder, perhaps. 9, find silence. We have a double portion, so we're okay. And 10, give back. And My Jewish Learning has done a lovely job giving a little bit of notes on each of these. My Jewish Learning says, myjewishlearning.com, another wonderful website, about avoid technology. Instead of making more and more stuff, God took some time to appreciate what had been created. Today, creating things is easier than ever, thanks to the many amazing technologies we have at our fingertips. From playlists to videos to plain old Word docs Our computers, tablets, cell phones, and music players help us create hundreds of things a day. But, like God, it's a good idea for us to take some time to appreciate everything that we have already created before we plug back in and start making more. Right? Yeah. So as someone with a so-called smartphone, I have fallen prey, I must admit. I suspect I'm not alone, but I will come out to this congregation and say I am now one of those people that wakes up in the morning and checks my email while I'm still lying in bed. Before I do anything else, I'm checking my email, and it's not stuff I want to see. This is not like my long-lost best friend from elementary school is writing me to tell me that he's getting married. This is like, it's often stuff that makes me feel not great, There's this tyranny, this absolute tyranny of people feeling like they're expected to be accessible 24/7. That they always have to keep checking. This is an addictive. I was recently in England and I didn't have the wireless, automatic everywhere network on my phone. It was really interesting noticing, all those moments in the day where I would otherwise have pulled out my phone and just checked to see if I had any interesting new emails. That is a tyranny. So I'm grateful that even if I do that, 24/6, at least it's 24/6, not 24/7. And I will say for myself, there is an absolutely incredible thing that comes from unplugging for a day. Unplugging from the phone, from the computer. No, and actually when I spoke with Rabbi David Zaslow, he told me that he had set an expectation for the B'nai Mitzvah students that they should try Shabbos. They should have some kind of relationship with Shabbat for the 2 years their preparation for their Bar Mitzvah. It doesn't need to be like the full elastic 9 yards. It's like, yeah, you want to drive to go to the mountains, that's fine, but don't go shopping. And I would like to say, as a minimum, I think these three things that we learn from this parsha with the manna, is a really, really, really good starting point. Cook in advance. Get your food ready, and it is a release for women, traditionally, specifically, to say the origin of work is not commerce, it's actually housework. Make preparations so that you are not doing housework on Shabbat, and that includes cooking. Cook in advance, have food for yourself, so that it's there for you. It's this magical gift, like the manna. It is this sustenance from beyond. No commerce, no need to buy or sell. This is a day to be happy with what is, happy with what you have. You don't need more stuff right now. And the third thing is cultivate the local. Just like you're cultivating a slower form of living, and people that wrote the Shabbat Manifesto say that they're part of the same movement as like slow food, etc., etc. Cultivate the local, cultivate your family life, your home life, your local community life. So you have that as a place to go home to, a place to go back to nourish you in that same way that the manna, this gift from beyond, can keep on feeding you. And that's what Levi Yitzchak B'ditshev says. The B'ditshev Levi Chassidic Rebbe says, 6 days of the week, the flow from heaven comes down and down and down and down and down and down and down, and then it crystallizes. And on Shabbat, we absorb it and we send it back up. I just want to say one more thing. There's one more place that we connect the manna to this day, to Shabbat, and that is explicitly in our Lechem Mishnah, our two beautiful loaves. That, and it's traditional practice to have 3 meals on Shabbat and to have 2 loaves at each. To remember specifically in that so that we know that every Shabbos is like that first Shabbos in the wilderness. It's the first way that God shows that God is still there after the Exodus, and that God is going to feed us and sustain us and take us all the way through the wilderness until the promised land. So when we eat of the challah, this week and every week, I want us to feel nourished in that way. This is the Shabbos that's feeding our extra soul, this special double portion, that memory of divine sustenance that should sustain us all our lives. Oh my goodness, we have been here a while.